Hi, Professor Belter with a short video on our team project assignment journal. First things I want to note is that I have moved the due date to October 10th at 9 a.m. so that I can actually work on this in the morning on Tuesday. I realize that people are studying for the midterm and there's some fretting about that. So I'm not going to actually do the assignment until next Tuesday. So as long as I have it by Tuesday morning, I can actually make everything work out. So I've moved the deadline until then. But you do need to get it in by then. So actually I'm going to go ahead and change that because I actually have done this. You can now go ahead and do the assignment. If you want to get it done before next week, that's fine. But I wanted to maximize how much time you could have for doing your studying for the midterm, which is more important than this particular journal assignment. Okay, so the journal assignment, you're going to consider the different project roles from Chapter 7. You're going to describe which roles you feel most suited to for each of the projects. There's 3 projects below. You will need to describe at least 3 roles per project where you think you are best suited, and at least 1 role where you think you would be the weakest or least comfortable. At least one of those roles must be a reviewer, and no more than half the roles can be reviewing. For each, include a 1 to 5 sentence justification, and I will use that justification in part of assigning things. So it's not just for the why is that a good role for you, but also might help me with the assignment. So to be very clear, you have 12 things you're going to write about. You have 4 roles, 3 positive, 1 negative, for each of 3 projects. And then finally, at the end of your journal, you're going to have a rank order of the 12 lines. You can actually do it with each of them if you just want to number them and put them in order in the file, that's fine, 1 through 12. But you're going to have 5 items, then you're going to have a list of 12 lines with 5 items. Your name, your project role, your priority, in terms of your priority was a number between 1 meaning your highest and 100 meaning your highest priority and a priority 1 meaning your lowest, and then your MBTI. I will hopefully use some of that information when I go to do the assignments. I'll be considering priority, but there's no assurance that you won't get assigned a project that you rate a 1. So don't try and play games and say this one's 100 and everybody else is a 1. In fact, if you do that, I'm more likely to assign you the 1 instead of the 100 because you're obviously playing games. Okay, so here I'm going to briefly cover all the list of the 3, and then I'm going to touch on each of those in terms of what they are. We're going to be looking at 3 NSF grants. I was hoping to have some passion projects that could have worked, but they didn't. So these are things that I think some students will get interested in. Maybe not something for everybody, but there's at least some opportunities. And these are things that will all hopefully benefit the university and the community if we win these. So the first of these was called an AISL grant. This is Advancing Informal STEM Learning. We might actually have 2 teams on this, but I'll figure out the exact teaming after you get going. So there are the 3 links. I'm going to show you some of those in a second. But for this project, we're going to be partnered with at least the City of Colorado Springs Office of Innovation. I met with them today about this. And this effort might have more partners, but those are the one I'm sure we're going to have because Carlos is very excited about it. There are 3 things we're going to look at. The first, which is more our side, we're going to look at the externship model that we already described a little bit for the opportunity now, so most of you are already somewhat familiar with that. And here the idea is that for informal STEM learning, being an intern working on an innovation team with a company is a way for the students to get some informal STEM learning about what it's going to take to be on the job, and we'll be able to tell part of the story that way. The second thing is to have what the city calls citizen science projects, and I'm good with that term. Citizen science, if you just Google it, there's lots of people who have done citizen science projects. In this case, the goal for the city is to get the community, and maybe some K-12 students in the community, involved in community-based science projects. So some of these can include studying the impact of the science. For example, projects looking at energy or sustainability have both a science element and a business element. So for the business majors in the class, that might be part of what we're going to include in this. And it could be part of what we actually want the community-based students to do. Community-based science projects to do, or the K-12 students, right? So this has got some opportunity to be very broad. The teams will be brainstorming your ideas in the projects in the first 2 weeks. We're going to be doing some of this stuff, and then we'll be meeting with the folks from the city. And I have some ideas for all 3 of these. I have sufficient ideas, and I can be the PI. So there's a bunch of stuff that has to happen in terms of partnerships and whatever. The reason we're doing these NSF things is because I can easily make sure they all happen. I had some other ones I was trying to work out, but without a strong commitment from the partners, it's hard to proceed. So just like some of you had ideas that in your passion projects that didn't work because we'd have to find partners, whatever, I had some of the same problems with two of the SBIRs I wanted to work on. So the last part of this project, though, is coming back to this idea of, is actually going to be combining the two, which will help tie the story together. We're going to be combining some of the BI team externship parts with citizen science to help some science centers, ideally the ones here in Colorado Springs, who are then going to be able to use the output of these teams to display projects related to externships and citizen science. So we'll be talking about both elements of those. I've not reached out to any of the science centers. That'll actually be something the team will want to select and contact, because what centers, what museums we want to partner with will depend on the stories we're telling. So we have to figure that out. Or it could be we figure out who we can partner with and then we write the stories. You can do story development for proposal both ways. We might also produce some videos for the web. That could be part of what the BI teams end up doing as well, especially if they're digital films making. That makes sense. So now I'll briefly touch on that, on the program. Actually, let's go to the first one. So the Advancing Informal STEM Learning. So this page gives you a synopsis of what the program is. I'm not going to go into all the details. And then they have, which is actually this link here, also in the assignment, there is the program solicitation that has all the details. So eventually the teams are going to have to go through all of this, understand what's going on. But I think, this is you can sort of see they're going to give between 48 and 77 of these grants across the country. There are different levels of awards, and that's one of the things the team will be discussing what exactly we're going for. I'm going to say we're not for AISL going to be looking at conference awards, but we could be looking at partnership development awards, but more likely integrated research and practice awards or research rate. There's a couple of different ways we can take this, so we have to figure out where that wants to be. And then there's actually some webinar. This team, this project has the opportunity, and NSF will be having a bunch of live webinars to help understand what's going on. And so this will help the team really see like the proposal preparation process as it would really be happening for a faculty member, whatever. I would be attending these. We'll be attending these, I guess. Okay, so back to the second project is the NSF program for broadening participation in engineering. Clearly, this is a little bit more engineering focused. But despite the fact that we don't have the other departments, mechanical and electrical, no longer have BI teams, we're going to actually probably write this at a broad level, and the team might convince me otherwise, but I expect that we'll probably want to write this at a broad level. There are many ways it can be spun, and there are multiple tracks that can be explored, but we only get to submit one of these grants, so we have to figure out which one that's going to be. And so the link there will take you to this broadening participation. You can sort of see this one's actually due before the end of the semester. It's the third Wednesday in November, so because these are older dates, right? If we're doing tracks 3 or 4, if we're doing tracks 1 or 2, we can do it at any time. So we'll see where that goes. I forgot to mention that for the AISL one, there was a set of dates. January, so it's after the semester. We have no problem submitting this because like the class will finish, we'll have our final project, and then I will actually turn it in January, assuming things go well. Okay, so the broadening participation. There actually are going to be multiple tracks. So when you're deciding what roles you want to play, part of that you might look at what of these teams, what of these efforts you might be most interested in. So there's the inclusive mentoring hubs, for example, might be a place where students want to actually help build a software hub for mentoring things, right? Or find out what tools are out there and leverage them. There's a whole bunch of things that can go into those categories. And then the last project is even more internal. So the broadening participation may or may not be internal, but the final project is STEM program at NSF, which is scholarships for STEM-oriented students, and that is this program. And so it too has multiple tracks, and the deadlines are even later. So February or March, so we have plenty of time. Again, the team can finish up everything during the semester, and then there will be some things we have to do to finish stuff up later. And so this is largely focused on trying to have more scholarships to support low-income students in STEM fields. They may have a focus on different parts of engineering. That'll be up to us as we go to figure out what we wanted to do for those elements. So that gives you a very brief overview. You'll have to read through all of these and then decide which of those you want. For each of them, what roles you think you would play in this proposal writing effort. Again, 3 have to be the ones you think you'll do well at, 1 where you want to avoid, and then also at least one of them has to be a reviewing role, because you'll be on both. You're going to actually be assigned to 2 teams. One is a development team, one is a reviewing team, and I'll figure out how I'm going to do all that after we get everyone's inputs. And then since I have you in this video, I'm going to actually make a quick thing with respect to the practice exam and whatever. I had a couple students reach out to me. Right, the practice exam, the style of the questions, and there are a bunch of questions. I forget how many I made, like 30 of one kind, 10 of another, and 5, whatever. Maybe it's 5 and 5. The one thing I do have to point out, which I thought I did, the exam is not necessarily auto-graded correctly because it can't grade any of the essays. And I made up some possible answers for the short answers, but when it goes to be done for the real exam, I will actually be grading them, so I will be able to make sure that the grades were more appropriate. Multiple choice should have been okay because it was like one I made right and the others are designed to be bad. Each of the chapters now have a bunch of words at the end, keywords. So if you go to this version of the book with key terms, right, it's got a bunch of terms. I'm not going to assure you that those are the only terms I can ask about. That's not the point of key terms. These are important terms. Any term in the chapter is still sort of fair game. So when people ask, like, how do you study? Well, you should read the chapter, right? Or at least make sure you're comfortable with everything that's in it. You can skim through and say, yeah, I already know this part, I know this part, right? If you've watched the videos and the chapters are very tight, so that should not be a terrible disconnect between them. And there are lots of things to know, but that's, we have a lot of terminology we've been going through, so you want to go through that. I've only seen a few people do the practice midterm. You still have plenty of time to do it, but it was supposed to be done by today. And so it's approaching the end of today. Hopefully everyone will get through that. If you have any problems with the lockdown browser and the webcam, that is required for the midterm. It is required for the practice. And then again, the midterm will actually be, scroll down, Sunday, October 8th from noon through 10 p.m. Monday, October 9th. So that gives you more than 24 hours. Again, it is closed book. The system will know you can't open any other browser windows. You can't have a PDF open. If you're using your phone during the exam, you get a 0 for the exam, and it will be recording you with a camera, so I will be able to see that. You're not allowed to phone a friend or anything else, right? This is your work through the midterm. And again, as I said, this is my first time using this particular textbook as I've been writing it, so my questions might be a little off. There might be a curving that has to happen afterwards, so don't freak out if you have not actually if you don't get a grade that seems really good, because I designed lots of my exams so the average is close to 50%. So that might actually be a B or a B plus, right, depending on where things are. So don't freak out until you actually get your grade on what's going to happen. And again, if you have any problems with the browser and stuff, shoot me an email. Thanks. Bye.